Welcome to Crossroads. The Chinese regime is working on a new program to train 3,000 police officers in other countries. Now, this is part of a push by the Chinese Communist Party to extend its influence in policing and global security. And according to a speech by Chinese State Councilor and Minister of Public Security Wang Xiaohong on Monday at the 2024 Conference of Global Public Security Cooperation Forum in Lianyungang, China, he says, is looking to take concrete actions to contribute Chinese wisdom and strength, I think he means CCP on that, to global public security governance. And what better way to contribute Chinese wisdom than to train thousands of police officers from other countries on the Chinese Communist Party's totalitarian tactics, right? Now, here's more on the program from South China Morning Post. Remember, under China's Alibaba. They say this: China will help train 3,000 foreign law enforcement officials over the next year to tackle global security issues and better protect Chinese interests beyond its borders. And that's the key part here, right? Protect Chinese interests, the country's public security minister said. And notice that China will also send police consultants and working units to countries to help improve their law enforcement capacity, conduct joint patrols and investigations, and tackle cross-border crime, according to this individual. And notice as well that Beijing, the CCP, is seeking ways to boost its presence beyond its borders to protect overseas interests while offering an alternative to Western-led global security governance, meaning pushing back against the United States. And notes also that on Monday, Wang met security officials from Malaysia, Myanmar, Zambia, Nicaragua, and Russia, and told them that China, the CCP, was willing to cooperate in the fight against telecom fraud, drug trafficking, and other cross-border crimes, boost security along the Belt and Road infrastructure projects, the CCP's infrastructure projects, and offer criminal judicial help, according to state-run media Xinhua. And remember as well that when the Chinese Communist Party is offering to stop drug operations, the CCP is also fueling them on the other side, right? Now here's a bit more on the details of what this entails, this whole global police push. South China Morning Post said this September of 2023, 1 year ago. China's top police chief has called on world powers to strengthen cooperation on public security as Beijing seeks to expand its influence in global governance. Now, they noted, again a year ago, before the current one, that the need to build a network of cooperation on public security, this individual told the forum that with more resources and advantages, the CCP should take the lead in upholding fairness and justice in the international community, and here's the important part, take a stand against hegemony. Now, hegemony is, of course, a reference to American hegemony, and they say that America's security operations abroad, pushing back against human rights abuses and those things, represents American imperialism and hegemony. The CCP wants to unseat the United States as kind of the world government, the one that maintains order in the world, and they want to replace that with the CCP's model, again, the China model. So when they talk about fighting back against hegemony, they want the Chinese Communist Party to become the new hegemon. Now they note that last year's gathering, organized by the China Association for Friendship, and this is important, is themed One World, Common Security. And notes that law enforcement officials and academics are among the more than 500 attendees from 50 countries and in regions including the United Kingdom, Russia, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, and Egypt, and also organizations including Interpol. Now, there's a lot to dig into here, but first, the mention again of hegemony really details the CCP's kind of want for this. It's trying to create a new system of global governance, unseating the United States and replacing it with the Chinese Communist Party. And also the CCP's new operation to train these 3,000 foreign law enforcement officials announced during this year's one. There are several parts to this. One is the CCP's existing operations to get its forces deployed under the United Nations for so-called peacekeeping operations. Another ties into the CCP's influence over Interpol, which they do, by the way, I'll get into that. Now, this all stems from its Global Security Initiative, which the Chinese Communist Party launched in April of 2022. And there are several parts to this. One part is how this relates to the Chinese Communist Party's existing operations to get its forces deployed under the United Nations for what they call peacekeeping operations, the UN peacekeepers. The CCP is using that to bring its agents to other countries to carry out that role. It's using the United Nations as a vehicle for that. Another ties into the Chinese Communist Party's influence over Interpol, the international police, which the CCP has headed for a long time and even punished people before for not enforcing the CCP's interests through Interpol. And another is related to the Chinese Communist Party's agenda to create a new security group within the Eurasian region, something was pushing recently at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Again, tying into what we discussed before about the creation of the Eurasian Empire, controlling the Eurasian region. Now, look, this also ties into other projects, including the Chinese Communist Party's use of secret police stations. You might remember the news. The CCP was establishing these secret police stations in New York City and other parts of the U.S. and other countries around the world, running police operations openly in these countries in some cases, enforcing CCP's laws, harassing dissidents, while again trying to stay away from the normal authorities of the country. This is two sides of the same program. The role on the so-called China Association for Friendship, notably, we talked about before, that the China Association for Friendship ran one of their previous big movements on this with other countries. That would tie into something important because the secret police stations, they typically run through United Front operations. And those United Front operations typically go through Chinese Communist Party tongs. Tongs are like fraternal organizations or associations. And these often include names like the Friendship Association. And so it does appear the CCP is using these same networks as the secret police stations to also, again, use this global policing push. But here, this is also important because it relates not just to the CCP's operations to work with foreign police, right? The one they're announcing right now, or even agreements, notably, that allow the Chinese Communist Party to even just directly deploy their police to other countries. Now, The Guardian noted this. They said China, the CCP, will train thousands of foreign law enforcement officers so as to see the world order, quote, develop in a more fair, reasonable, and efficient direction, under the CCP, of course. And that's according to its Minister for Public Security. And it's that Beijing has linked the GSI, this new police program, to its brokering of agreements between Iran and Saudi Arabia and the development of its peace proposal for the Ukraine war. It is seen by analysts as a vehicle to reshape the current U.S.-dominated world order. Again, they're trying to topple the United States and what it represents. Topple the Pax Americana, the peace under America, and replace it with the Pax Sinica, the peace under China, the CCP's model for this. They don't look to get rid of hegemony. They want themselves to become the new hegemon. The GSI concept, notably it says here, appears to include a run of bilateral security and policing agreements made with developing nations in recent years, particularly in Africa and the Indo-Pacific. They note that this recent announcement suggests that number is increasing, with Wang, the head of that security organization, noting that China has already trained 2,700 foreign law enforcement officers in the past year. And again, these officers will be the ones who go and carry those trainings and teach others how to do it. The last week after a China-Africa forum, Beijing, the CCP, announced that it will train 1,000 more police enforcement officers for the African continent and jointly ensure the safety of cooperation projects and personnel. It was not immediately clear if those 1,000 officers are included in the 3,000 cited by Wang on Monday.